A very good evening today, and welcome to this Gyan Pravah, the podcast, the initiative by our President Fogsi, Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar, Madam. Today marks the 303 episodes. You can imagine live every day at 8 p.m. And I think 95% of the time she joins and interacts with the guests. And we have had a varied number and type and quality of guest faculty here. And I am the chairperson of the Foxy No to Violence Against Women Committee. So I had focused on all the guests, all the faculty who have been working in the core area of this women's empowerment, women's health and violence and gender-based equality, gender equality, etc. So today our guest is Ms. Amrita Dasgupta. She's the executive director of one of the very well-known NGOs in Kolkata, which is working on survivors of the victims of the violence against women. They rehabilitate, they empower them. So I thought they make them Swayamsiddha. So they make them prepared for life, and that's what really which makes it very, very important. So before we introduce our guest properly, I welcome Dr. Ashwini, who has joined Secretary of Foxy, who has joined today in place of our President, Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar. Dr. Ashwini is a very dynamic, young multitasker, and she's a very, very, I think you can say the right hand to our President, Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar. And she's many, many more things. She's an infertility specialist. She's an obstetrician gynecologist based in Pune. And she's been doing a wonderful job coordinating the entire Foxy activities, the 30 chairpersons activities. Amrita, you won't believe that there are at least 200 activities going on simultaneously. The projects, the publications, the initiatives, the campaigns, and the team led by Madam very effectively and very swiftly does it all, and with a smile. So welcome you, Ashwini. If you would like to say a few words on behalf of Madam.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kiranmai Madam. A very warm welcome to Amrita Madam. It's really a privilege today. I must say that thanks to Madam that she got busy, that I got a chance to be there in Kiranmai Madam's podcast today, because I have been once or twice with the other 31 chairpersons, but somehow I was never there with Kiranmai Madam. She always has a huge varied list of guests to them. I mean, be it the actress, be it various workers like you. It's wonderful. And I think she has taken this committee, Violence Against Women, to another level. I mean, the way she worked during the Kolkata Nirbhaya thing, I mean, we realized that how important this committee is and how dedicated her work is. Come what may, the programs that she conducts at schools, the self-defense workshops, they are so important. I am myself being a mother of a teenage daughter now, I understand that how important all these things are. So heartiest congratulations to you, Kiranmai Madam. And I think she is going to host a huge workshop at AICOG in Delhi also in January, which is our annual conference. And to tell you in a bit about Foxy, this is our organization of over 46,000 gynecologists spread across India. And Sunita Madam is the president of this organization this year. And under her presidency, our core theme for this year is Sampurna, which is nothing but preconception care. So somewhere I feel that if the women is empowered to take care of her preconception care, so that is also one kind of avoiding violence against women, where she is able to be in charge of her fertility, decide when to get pregnant, decide how many pregnancies to have, be aware of her contraception, be aware regarding the spacing of the children. So this is what she is working this year, and this project will go on for 3 years. And like Kiranmai Madam said, there are multiple projects going on, be it against cancer cervix, against HPV vaccination, which is called as the Nirmal Banaras. And another projects like Kiranmai Madam is doing her education against this violence against women in various schools. And this year, it is the first year that we have started a program called as Prayas, which is sex education to the boys. I mean, we always concentrated on women. So this year it is all the adolescent boys. So that is also an innovative program this year. So I think I'll join from the viewers link, and all the very best, Kiranmai Madam.
Thank you. Ashwini, stay back as I introduce Amrita.
Sure. I'll be here. Yeah.
So it's a pleasure to have with us Ms. Amrita Dasgupta. She's, as I have told, she's the Executive Director of SWAYAM. This is an NGO which works on empowering survivors of violence and making them stand on their feet, rehabilitate financially, legally, and all aspects. As I've said, making them Swayamsiddha. Amrita has been very passionate about the human rights, women's rights, and the gender equality, whether it is at home or work. And she works with individuals, families, institutions, and the state. And she has a master's degree in sociology from Mumbai and another master's degree from University of East Anglia, United Kingdom, in development studies and gender. The Swayam is an organization, feminist organization, which has been working since the last 30 years, based in Kolkata, but the work expands across the country. And basically, it works on the issues of gender equality and especially on violence against women. Of course, I was reading their annual report. Very, very impressive and inspiring. So happy to have you, Amrita. And actually, in Kolkata AICOG, in the Dhira program, we've had her as one of our guests at Kolkata, and that's how I got to know the work of Swayam. And later, when Dr. Basab sir also had conducted a workshop in Kolkata last year, I think, and we went there, and the Swayam's work was projected very well. Thank you for joining, and it's a pleasure to have you today. And in the next 40 minutes, I think you will get to know how Swayam is working and how sharing things about you and the organization and about the topic, because this is the 16 days of activism from 25th November to 10th December. 25th November is the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. And these 16 days, globally, worldwide, every organization, every nation is focusing on this aspect, and it ends on the 10th December, the Human Rights Day. So it's really great to have you today, especially on the 27th of November, on one of the days. We have been doing a lot of activities every day, so across all societies. So I think this is a very special one today. Thank you so much.
You've had an apt guest today. And I think, madam, we'll be very happy to welcome you at Delhi again during our AICOG dates.
Pleasure. This is an absolute pleasure to be here and talking to all of you on this very important issue. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Kiran, madam, I'll join from the viewers link.
Thank you so much, Amrita, for joining at such short notice. Very happy
My pleasure.
To have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Yeah. So Amrita, thank you once again. So my first question would be, how did you start this journey? What made you, to do the work that you have been doing, to start the field that you are in? What made you choose this?
I think for me, it was a very natural progression from a very rebellious young person. I think somewhere in my childhood, I never followed systems. I questioned everything, especially looking back. I questioned patriarchy. I questioned what was expected of me in the home or outside, although my parents were very liberal, but somehow I was challenging and questioning, and I think making life very difficult. And down the line, I was very clear, I wanted to work with people. I wanted to work on human rights. I wanted to make a difference. I was very clear on that. But initially, when you finish school and go into college, I wasn't sure which aspect of human rights I wanted to focus on. So I did, I dabbled with housing rights and other forms of rights and looking at developmental issues. But while doing my master's in UK, it was very clear that somewhere, I guess I was always a feminist. I didn't have the language for it. And I think the work helped me find myself. And I think I was a very rebellious, angry young woman. And I think the work has helped me channelize my anger or my questioning society in a very structured, uniform way. So it was a natural lead to give back to society, work with people and work with women, and work for rights and equality has been something that has naturally been a progression in my life. And unfortunately, I don't know how to do anything else. So this is what I've done all my life.
So it's like it was a very organic and natural way. And you have the channelization and the outlet for your angst. I think it is more of an angst and finding answers, and I think it has happened. Where was your schooling? Was it at Kolkata?
Partly Kolkata, partly Jamshedpur, a bit of Darjeeling, Bombay. So then I worked in Chhattisgarh, Bihar and all in a kind of Eastern India space before I moved to UK. So I think I've had the opportunity and the exposure to different spaces and different kind of walks of life. So I think that in itself was a life lesson, which I think textbooks can't always offer you.
Then how can you share something about the Swayam, the organization, the NGO?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So Swayam was started exactly 30 years ago by Anuradha Kapoor. She's the founder of Swayam, and she started Swayam because at that point in Kolkata, she believed there was no one organization that provided support to survivors of violence. So there were many small organizations doing, little bits of work of few days a week, and she wanted to do what is called now holistic support. So women can come into one space and get all kinds of support and not have to go from door to door. So that is where the kind of idea of Swayam was kind of instilled. And there were two very key aspects of our work with survivors. One of it is mental health integration. Because this is a very unique aspect of Swayam, because I worked in London, I worked in India. Very few organizations 30 years ago integrated mental health and working with survivors. And as you would rightly know as a doctor, that all women have some level of trauma if you've experienced violence. The degree might vary, but everyone has been through some level of trauma. So to have in-house, absolutely. So to have in-house counselors is how we started off. And today, 30 years on, mental health is integrated into every aspect of our work. So the women who walk through the door, they not only have counseling, but they have group work and different levels of support. It could be mental health camps, it could be anger management workshops, it could be intergenerational workshops with our counselors, helping them navigate different challenges and develop different life skills in a through their counselors. And I think this has been a huge success for us. And the other thing we have is legal advice. And Anuradha always believed that all women need to know their rights. Whether you want to take it down a legal route or not, we need to know what our rights are as individuals, as human beings, and as women. So the law has been integrated into our work. All our caseworkers understand, are able to support women on women-centric laws. We then have become specialists in the field. We train lawyers. Anuradha Kapoor has written a book on the PWDVA judgments. So law is another key area of focus. And briefly, on the other hand, we wanted to prevent violence from happening. We cannot keep supporting women after women if we don't look at the root cause of violence, which is inherent in our mindset, in our thinking within the patriarchal setup. So we started working to prevent violence, and that we did it by looking at trainings and capacity building. So building knowledge, it could be other educational institutions, it could be doctors, it could be lawyers, it could be police officers, and corporates as well, and other civil society organizations. We also then look at working with like-minded organizations and networks across the country. Ultimate aim being that change can only happen when you work in collaboration. One organization cannot make a whole difference. So collaboration is a very key element of our work, and we have created networks around the country. One such network is called Aman, which works towards the implementation of the Domestic Violence Act. It is 20 years old, and currently there are close to 160 members across India. So that's a very powerful network that we work with. We also then take out IC material, kind of working with the public, trying to influence them, trying to engage them, campaigns, rallies on the streets. And we also work in two communities, which is an urban community and a rural community in the villages outside Kolkata. There, the strategy is similarly supporting survivors as well as preventing violence, but it is done through group work. So we form groups of women, we empower them, then we see leaders emerging, then we train the leaders. Ultimate aim is those leaders will address violence in their own communities, and we will exit the space because they are the kind of take the work forward.
When I read about your work, the word that just came to my mind was Swayamsiddha, making them, empowered,
self-reliant. That's a core of our work. Absolutely.
And thinking that, when you realize that it is 30 years, it's quite a kind of a radical or very, very, very important fact because we are seeing the formation of one-stop crisis centers or the Saki centers only of late, maybe around 10 years, which is more or less like an all-in-one one-stop crisis centers with the legal aid, with the police and all from the government. So that way, this holistic approach is, and it is 30 years that the organization has formed.
Absolutely.
So that's really fantastic. And how many women how many women's lives Swayam has touched till now? And what have been the challenges, some very important challenges these survivors face, or in the experience of Swayam, or as an organization or as an individual that you have seen?
So there are two things. I'll start with challenges. Unfortunately, this is a global problem, not just with India, because 1 in 3 women experience violence at least once in their lifetime, and these are only the recorded crimes. Most women do not record when they experience violence. So the numbers are much higher, which means several one of us who are hearing this would have...
Sorry to interrupt you. And one other statistic which, gets thrown, which is like you see every time, everywhere, but it doesn't receive the kind of shock that it deserves.
Absolutely.
Is 1 in 10 homicides is
absolutely
1 in 10
domestic
women.
violence.
1 in 10 women die because of this.
Absolutely.
That's very, very, very shocking.
So somewhere it's been normalized, and this is how life is. And
do we underplay the statistic?
Absolutely. We do underplay the statistics. We don't want to talk about it. There is somewhere about a victim blaming that always goes around. And this is, again, these are not country specific comments I'm also making. It's very much here. So it must be your fault. You might have not been a good mother or a good wife, or you did not make the food well, or you earn too much. Now the things have changed. Now you could be too empowered. That's why you're being, he's not treating you well, or because you're too modern. That's why. So the list of excuses why it goes on. And I think somewhere there is nothing that nobody deserves violence in their lives. And I think somewhere we need to talk about that. Unfortunately, we also live in a society, there's too much shame and stigma. So I have been abused, I have been beaten, but I am ashamed to talk about it. So the kind of conversations and work we are trying to do at Swayam,
the whole onus of keeping the family life intact
together
to maintain the peace is 100% on the woman.
Absolutely.
So much so that if the husband is an alcoholic, the woman gets blamed because of some lacuna or because something in her which has made him an alcoholic.
Absolutely.
The blame goes to that extent. So this shame and guilt is like, I think even at the other end of the spectrum, being very educated and empowered also, women still experience it in some shade or some form or other. Like even, for example, as who are working outside and who are taking care of homes are always having this even little bit of fear or guilt that you should not fail in your family aspect.
Absolutely.
The entire onus.
So thank you for bringing that topic up, because somewhere I have to agree that the society has progress. Women are here in the workspaces. Women are becoming empowered. They are having jobs. There's all of you who are here, which is absolutely brilliant. But I think somewhere, despite all the progress we've made, there is still inequality that exists. Maybe the degree of violence might vary from home to home. But if we ask about the number of families where there are equality both in the home and outside, and in terms of division of labor in the house and looking after the children, I think somewhere if you look at those statistics will show up. We often joke during trainings that, there is a lot of stigma around working women and working late. And who's going to look after the kids? But the kids belong to both parents. So if one can leave the operation theater early to go back to the child, so can the other. And I think somewhere we need to look at that. Also, there is this whole thing about violence cuts across caste, class, religion, education, all backgrounds. So unfortunately, it is not something that we hear that it's happening in certain parts of the country or in a certain area or certain kinds of people. It happens across the board. Despite your educational level, despite your social backgrounds, it just is packaged very differently. The kind of women who come to us, there are people from different walks of life who come to us. But the ones who come from a certain upper or upper middle class background might have a lot of financial independence to be able to make certain decisions or to have a mutual divorce, which somebody else might not have. but they will come and get our advice, but do things in a different way. While others might take all our services, be in our office all the time, engaging in group work, which somebody from a middle or upper middle community might not do. But I think somewhere we have to break the myth that it's not happening in your and my home. It is very much a concern. The other challenge that happens is, where do we go for help? We live in a society where you talked about.
That brings us to the question, does Swayam have a helpline, or how do people or women in need know that Swayam is there and that they can approach your organization?
So there are helpline numbers, but unfortunately, like all of us, we work a 10 to 6 working hours, and that's a conversation we've been having. What happens to women over weekends and evenings? But that is something we would love to figure out in the future. But currently, it's a working day.
Is there some kind of liaison with the the government helplines like 181 or 100, or some of the women get
So if they don't get in touch with us, we do refer them to the government helplines. And also I mentioned we have a network called Aman. So the positive thing, if you're sitting in Kolkata and we have a referral in Punjab or in Pune, we then look up other organizations who are our member and we then refer them on. So a lot of joint working is happening because, as you're aware, funds are limited, resources are limited, and it's important that we put our differences aside, work together. Ultimate aim is to support survivors throughout the country.
I've heard this from, I think, Ekta, one of our guests, and she's based in Hyderabad. She was also talking about this, working with other organizations across the countries, and there's no point in replicating and going yourself and establishing your organization and how meaningless it is. So I think this is another point that you brought about, how we need to collaborate, and collaborate.
Absolutely.
And then this, I think we have covered this, working with other organizations and authorities. Would you like to share some maybe success stories or some of the very impactful kind of experiences that survivors who have reached Swayam have? You have to share anything.
I mean, there are so many stories, and I think these are not just stories. These are people who have not only changed their lives, but they have influenced us. So when we hear their journeys, I think it is so powerful and so impactful. I'll just talk about two stories, two incidences about, again, we've changed the name. Madhvi was from West Bengal, from a place called Mednipur, and we got a call from her sister. And the sister called us up to say that her sister Madhvi experiences domestic violence and has been beaten up very badly with a marble rock. And her head has been cracked and she's in a very bad situation and she has multiple injuries and fractures. Do something about it. This woman has an 8-year-old child in a domestic violence relationship. The husband now is having an extramarital affair and is forcing the woman to live with her son. And in that anger, hit her with a marble rock on her head, and basically there was a huge injury. Our teams immediately next day, I think they went, this is like 4-5 hours away from Kolkata, 2 of our team members went to the hospital, spoke to her, and somewhere the fact that somebody came to see her, I think, I've heard about it, that she was so upset and crying and thankful. And we had to explain to her, this is your choice, whatever you want to do. But after living years in a violent relationship, it's very difficult for a woman to leave despite the violence that is going on. Because we are also taught as women that marriage is for keeps, unfortunately. And somewhere it's not perfect, but you have to make it work. So it was very difficult for her, despite the severe head injuries and stitches, that, what do you want to do? But ultimately, a month later, she came to Kolkata to meet us, saw our lawyers, counselors. We started working with her. And after a while, she did separate from her husband. We also called her husband down. We do this kind of a conversation. Ultimate aim is we want to create peace. And a lot of women do not want to leave. But the husband was very clear, I do not want to live with her. I want to move on. So we had to explain to her that you cannot be here. She had counseling. She talked about her trauma, her marriage breaking up, the guilt, the emotional dependence. And ultimately, she went through a mutual divorce. She got a 5 lakh settlement. She started working in Kolkata and she continued to work with Swayam and kind of get her life back. So I think somewhere there are extreme situations, but because of the services that we offer, there is a lot of change. Another woman, I know her well, is her husband died at a young age and she was left with a son, and there was a lot of violence from her in-laws and she was forced to leave and she was left on her own. And it became very, very difficult for her to survive because there was a lot of violence from her in-laws at that point. And slowly she started rebuilding her life. She started having mental health support, counseling. She started, went through the looking at mental health support and economic empowerment, learning training, learning how to do tailoring. And what was best about her is we supported her son. We do try and do some level of support for children as well, both educational, counseling, play therapy. Today, that son is a young, I think he's in class 10 right now. He comes to office very often. He's his mother's biggest supporter. He speaks up for women's rights and he comes to all our programs. And that is the story that we love talking about.
Yes.
And this woman also has joined what we call a women's activist group. Swayam has a lot of agents of change. Swayam has a belief that all women also have something to give back. You're not just a victim, you're a survivor. And even if you're a survivor, you can give back. So we have something called agents of change where we train some active women. A lot of women are very active, committed, they speak well, they are very compassionate. We train them to become like counselors in their own areas, ultimately supporting women in their grassroots spaces. And this woman is one such woman, then supporting other women, getting referrals, taking women to courts, police. So she's absolutely become a powerhouse representing Swayam in different spaces, talking about her journey. And here her son is in grade 10, is a very empowered young man. So I think there are so many stories and stories of change and resilience I can talk about. But I think each story teaches us how important it is to speak up and not believe that it's your fault. And there is support out there for each one of us.
One helping hand makes a lot of difference.
Absolutely.
So what are the ways you rehabilitate them, especially for economic independence? Ultimately, if they are on their feet financially, it makes a huge difference. That's why I work in this area also.
We do economic empowerment work, but unfortunately, this isn't a strong point for various reasons. In Kolkata, what happens, the referrals we receive is from different socioeconomic backgrounds. It's not a homogeneous group. So it's very difficult to have one kind of input for different kinds of women. They don't want to come in for a singular course. We do a lot of career counseling. We do offer some level of aid for women who want to do small businesses from home, things like that. Our economic empowerment works very well in our rural and urban communities because it's a homogeneous group. In a village or in a kind of a small area, everybody is kind of from similar backgrounds. So we do a lot of course, mostly a lot of tailoring, because tailoring gets women to earn sitting in their own homes and get some money in their hand, and they can earn anything between 3,000 to 15,000 a month just sitting at home. We do work with other kind of other spaces. So hospitals, actually nursing. So a lot of women go for nursing, a lot of women go for driving. So we do a lot of that work. But again, there is a lot that needs to be done around economic empowerment and also supporting our women. Not all of them know how to get into full-time employment. So I think somewhere there's a mental block for a lot of them. We need to support them. We need to guide them. And also a lot of them are single women with small children. They can't take up long hours. So I think finding the balance between the need of the women and the need of the market is always a challenge. But we also have stories where some women have started big tailoring businesses. They are supplying to big designers from Kolkata and they've employed 10, 15 women. So there are also a lot of catering businesses women have started. So there are a lot of positive stories, and a lot of our survivors who've been with us for 30 years, they have, I mean, I can think of one who started writing in Swayam's magazine. Like we started a magazine encouraging women to write. She then subsequently went on to write many books because she found her voice and found her calling. So I think there are so many stories of change that we see every day.
That brings us, you mentioned writing. I also read that art expressing in the form of art is a major way of Swayam's work. Can you share something about it?
I think
I've also seen in the workshop in Kolkata.
I know. So I think there are two elements to it. One is we call them agents of change. So we have a theatre group, a music group, we have a dance group. We mentioned Proyash, which is a quarterly magazine, women write in, and the activist group. These are all women survivors. They all volunteer for us, and the objective is that everybody has something creative that they can give back. So the theatre groups write their own theatre on dowry or child marriage. We have a mentor who trains them, and then they go and perform in various spaces. So it's a lot impactful, where a survivor is doing a play on child marriage, or a survivor group singing on dowry instead of me going and talking. So that has really made a
the street
huge
play.
change.
Actually,
Absolutely.
last year, one of our societies had shared this beautiful, initiative with the district collector. I think during these 16 days, he had opened up a competition of painting the walls of the government buildings.
We do that.
And, nursing college students have done it. The entire wall, which is open to the public, the government hospital, for example, or a college. The whole wall is painted with, the messages, the drawings, and the paintings of depicting gender equality or gender-based violence, and public move through that area.
Absolutely.
It magnifies. I think that was one of the most beautiful things that I had.
We do that. I think
wall paintings.
Yeah, we do that a lot now, because I think art is a language that cuts across, and it's very non-threatening. We have realized that over time, that using art to engage and create a conversation is very, very impactful, and not different people with different literacy rates, language barriers can all access that art. So every year we've been doing some art installation with survivors. So we'll do a workshop with them about what are their dreams, what would they have liked to be in life, or if the world was safe, what would that look like? And we have used a kind of public walls, so school, college walls. We've had big exhibitions at Victoria Memorial in Kolkata, the Indian Museum in Kolkata, and as we speak, we are having a new wall mural on the Swayam office wall depicting Swayam's 30-year journey. So women and our team members have talked about how Swayam has influenced them and what they've become because of Swayam. And an artist is putting all of that up on the wall. So it becomes a talking point. It kind of leaves a very impactful and powerful message for the passerby. And I think it's magnificent. And this is something we're also doing in our communities, in the villages we work, and in the urban spaces, in the areas, localities. On child marriage and dowry, it's our group members, the village group members, they are painting walls, they are writing dialogues, and it is really, like you said, in the panchayat wall, if somebody has written on child marriage and preventing child marriage, or dowry, or sexual harassment in Bengali or Hindi or Urdu, it is extremely impactful. For 6 months, that is there on the wall. Everybody who's passing by is talking about it and kind of taking something away.
It acts like a therapy also, I think, when the expression of
Absolutely, it does. And also for women, a lot of our survivors from different walks, if their artwork or their writing or their something is up in Victoria Memorial.
Of course, yes.
One of the most important monuments, it is beyond powerful and beyond, it's beyond everything. And it's so inspirational for them, for us, and for everybody else out there. So definitely, I think each one of us has so much to give back. So definitely.
You have been in Swayam since how many
11 and a half years.
11 and a half years. So I would be asking this, like, since the journey of Swayam of 30 years and your experience of 1 decade plus, what has been the scene or the spectrum of either prevalence or the forms of violence? Do you see hope, or is it like more of what has been the change in whether people coming out, or whether there have been more of complaints, and that's the reason why we are seeing more violence, or is it the violence is increasing, the forms? What has been your impression? Maybe a decade of yours and 3 decades of Swayam.
I think it's a combination of many factors. On one hand, women have become more empowered. There's been a lot of awareness, a lot of organizations, even all of you have contributed towards creating awareness. So we have seen a shift where women might have been in an abusive relationship for 30 years or 20 years. today, within a few months, a lot of people are coming up and speaking about it. Absolutely. And a lot of people are now recognizing its violence. Even family members are standing by their children. Again, there are exceptions to the rule, but generally, we are also, there is also a lot of women who are speaking up, very articulate, expressing themselves, which is very, very positive. And it's globally, women are claiming their spaces within the larger society and looking at equality. However, the flip side to that, there are a couple of things. One of it is the more women are claiming spaces and speaking up, there is a backlash. There's a lot of backlash against women. And this is, again, not just in India.
Everywhere.
There is a global backlash. And the word feminist is now a swear word, and it's not seen as in a positive connotation.
Actually, this year's theme is digital violence. I think there is so much.
So I'll talk about
Please
that.
do talk about that.
So
about online
what I wanted to talk about is the forms of violence is also changing. So I think somewhere the other type of violence we are seeing a lot more is called natal family violence. Parents abusing their children, which has always been there, but COVID made it worse, or COVID brought it to light. And somewhere, yes, because it's parents, we think it's okay for parents to control us or hit us or manage us, but there's a difference between disciplines and violence, and I think it's a fine line. And we are seeing so many women being abused, even sexually abused, controlled, manipulated by their parents, because I'm your father, I'm your mother, this is my job, or stopping them from meeting people, going out, etc. So there is a huge change around the form of violence. The other thing, even for our 16-day, our topic was on online gender-based violence, because we are seeing an increase of not just cases of online violence, not just with survivors, but in the communities and the villages we work with, and in the schools and colleges we work with, and even in my home. So it is an issue that is cutting across all communities, all spaces, because we now have a smart device and we don't know how to use it safely. Everybody's accessing it. Everybody's accessing inappropriate.
It's like being in a public space or on a street, just online. And also they have the advantage of anonymity, or you can't reach them physically.
Possibly. So there are different elements. So we think it's anonymous. So we start chatting, we share pictures of ourselves, but there's nothing like anonymous on it. The abuse, definitely. I know. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we just had a film launch. I'm happy to share. We launched 2 films on online digital violence and creating awareness around it. And I think this is going to be the biggest thing that's going to hit us and will continue to hit us, because from young people to somebody who's even the age spectrum, everybody's using the mobile phone, and at different points are being abused or trolled. So all the forms of violence that existed in our daily lives is now moving online. So domestic violence is also moving online. My husband is taking pictures of me without my consent, or even I gave consent, but I didn't give consent to share it with my office. Or the online harassment is happening. The boss who used to mentally torture you in the office.
Post separation, post divorce, post.
Absolutely. And now there's morphing. Now there's morphing of images. There's, the whole gaming culture.
Harassment continues in various forms after even, the woman leaves the abusive relationship also.
Absolutely. So I think that one of the biggest thing is going to be digital violence, digital online violence, and looking at what you talked about, the manosphere, how, men also, we also have to work with men to figure out how to create this balance, because we can't keep empowering women to speak up and be articulate.
Yeah, so that would take us to our next question, like how can men and boys get involved in someone like Swayam's work and contribute to, because unless men and boys are taken into the fold, again I find it little bit I would not say on one hand you have to take them along, but on the other hand you cannot continue to educate them. And hello, I think it's frozen. Can you see me, Amrita?
I think there's a lag of internet. We just wait for a few seconds.
Acha, on her side, from her side, or from our side?
No, from her side.
Yeah, yeah. I was just wondering it was from my side. Yeah, we'll just wait. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. I thought it was from my side. So I was talking about this conflict. So once we started dialogue or debate, for example, today itself, I was seeing this online discussion. One woman said simply that though we say not all, it always starts with not all men. But again, well-intentioned, so-called good men, everyone jumps into the forum supporting the innocence of men. But we see the silence from most of these men when, they shy away or shun away from speaking for the survivors of the.
Absolutely.
So do we fight with them, or how do we take along, how do we work together? But ultimately, because, but again, the owners, they keep it on women to make peace, to maintain peace, to educate men, to take men along, to, have patience or whatever it is. So what do you think ultimately? Because you brought up this important issue of
No.
men and boys.
Well, thank you for even asking this question, because I think it's extremely important. Because you can't talk about equality and violence against women if you don't talk to men and boys. And I think exactly 10 years ago, Swayam started directly working with men and boys, because we believe that if we want to create violence-free spaces, we need to work with people from all genders. So we started working with men and boys. But when our journey started in our communities, so in the villages and the urban spaces, we started working with men to support us to end violence against women. That is the theory we started with. But over the years, we've realized patriarchy, we talk about living in a patriarchal society, which does control women to a certain point. Yes, it is not about man versus woman. It is about a system that pits, a system
which
that
harms
gives.
men also.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about how it's harming men. And the work we are now doing is to acknowledge and teach men that patriarchy has given you certain privileges and power, but it has certain pressures
Burdens.
on you as well. Absolutely. Burden to be the breadwinner all the time, burden to earn all the
Be
time,
the
burden
provider,
to be provider, to be strong, not
suppress
cry.
emotions.
Absolutely. So what we have seen now is, now that we are slowly working with these men, and there are such a lot of powerful stories of change where, people in the small villages in outside Kolkata, they would never, pick up the kid or take care of the child. Today, they're bringing the kids into the group meetings, into activities. Yesterday, I went to a very, very underdeveloped area of Kolkata. There was an anti-dowry program happening. There was an average of 15 children aged from 2 to 10 years old, all had anti-dowry written by face painting on their faces. Their parents had got them. They all wanted to be part of that space. And men had got their daughters along with them to be part of a program like this. So I think somewhere men who have realized that what they did weren't, violence isn't the answer. There is a better way of doing it, looking at men's mental health, looking at support, looking at balance in relationships. And a lot of them are able to articulate that they found themselves because we worked with them. Today, when their mother and their mother-in-law are fighting, they understand the dynamics between the two women,
Yes.
and they
Instead
know
of
how to
putting the women
balance
against
things.
the women, of course.
Absolutely. Or how they want to support their wives in an equal relationship, so their daughter sees them as a strong role model and not just as a provider who comes home at the end of the night. I think somewhere we are seeing a lot of positive change with the men and boys we are working with, but it is very, very hard to work with men and boys as well. One, they don't have time. Two, they're busy earning if they're older men. But also the society is giving a lot of messages to men and boys on how to be cool and how to be controlling and how to be macho. And I think, unfortunately, it's our
The
films,
media,
it's the kind of
the films,
media. So I think
blockbusters.
I won't name the blockbusters,
Yes,
but obviously there are so many out
so
there
many.
which are questionable, because ultimately we strongly believe that no man is born violent. There
Yeah,
is a socialization process. So I think
additional.
somewhere we need to look at what caused it and work to prevent it. Yes, we might not be successful with everybody, but I think it is not black and white. There are some areas of gray.
I can say from a personal experience that a good man, or basically a decent human being, man will change definitely, but we need to keep up the kind of dialogue or education or, discussion, everything. And if he has daughters, that would add to the change is what I have realized. I think again we have lost. Yeah. Amrita.
No, I'm here.
Yeah. So,
no, I think it's very important.
Yeah, please
I was
carry on.
just saying that it's important for men to work on equality, and for feminism is about creating equal space. Feminism is not about men versus women. And I think somewhere it's about working with men to create a safer, equal world for all. And that's what we're aiming to do. So I think we do work with a lot of male role models and feminist men, and I think we need many more out there.
Many more out there. And a gender equal world is a win-win situation for everybody. I think that is
Absolutely.
It is not a loss for men or a win for women.
No.
It's a win-win situation for everybody in the society. I think that should be the final message for today. Thank you, Amrita, for taking out your time and sharing all the very important messages. I think we are enriched, and this podcast is recorded and it will go out to all our members. And we are really happy and thankful that you could join us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing us to share our work and this important issue on this 60 days.
And as you're talking about collaborations, we look forward to more and more collaborations and a lot of work to do, of course. And congratulations, and also thankful to the work that Swayam and you all are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Support team.